رب العلا أشتاق قربك سيدي، هبني اللقاء أمسك يدي في كربلاء في كربلاء. إني تركت الخلق طرا في هواك ربي، وأيتمت العيال لكي أراك، عهدا لئن قطعتني بالحب إربا ربي لما مال الفؤاد إلى سواك، ربي لما مال الفؤاد إلى سواك. نادى الحسين مخضبا في كربلاء، حسن البلاء يا مليكا للسماء إلى كربلاء. نادى الحسين مخضبا في كربلاء، حسن البلاء يا مليكا للسماء، حسن البلاء يا مليكا للسماء. أنت القريب إذا دعيت، خذ ما تشاء لئن رضيت، حتى الرضا أفنيت عمري بالدعاء، هانا لعطفك من سعى، عشقا قضى أدعوك محتاجا إليك أيا حبيب، أبكيك مكروبا فهل سؤلي تجيب، احكم إلهي بيننا هم قتلونا، واجعل لنا من أمرنا فرجا يطيب، واجعل لنا من أمرنا فرجا يطيب. نادانا.
Health officials are sounding the alarm, saying new infections of COVID are exploding nationwide.
Breaking news, stay at home. That is the
Health officials are sounding the alarm, saying new infections of COVID are exploding nationwide.
breaking news, stay at home. That is the
Health officials are sounding the alarm, saying new infections of COVID are exploding nationwide.
breaking news, stay at home. That is the
Health officials are sounding the alarm, saying new infections of COVID are exploding nationwide.
Breaking news, stay at home. That is the
Health officials are sounding the alarm, saying new infections of COVID are exploding nationwide.
breaking news, stay at home. That is the
Health officials are sounding the alarm, saying new infections of COVID are exploding nationwide.
breaking news, stay at home. That is the
Health officials are sounding the alarm, saying new infections of COVID are exploding nationwide.
breaking news, stay at home. That is the
Health officials are sounding the alarm, saying new infections of COVID are exploding nationwide.
نادى الحسين مخضبا في كربلاء حسن البلاء يا مليكا للسماء. يلا الشباب. نادى الحسين مخضبا في كربلاء حسن البلاء يا مليكا للسماء. نادى الحسين مخضبا في كربلاء حسن البلاء يا مليكا للسماء. حسن البلاء يا مليكا للسماء. خذني إليك على عجل رمت الوصال ولم أزل رب العلا رب العلا. أشتاق قربك سيدي هبني اللقاء أمسك يدي في كربلاء في كربلاء. إني تركت الخلق طرا في هواك ربي وأيتمت العيال.
عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم ولا نساء من نساء عسى أن يكن خيرا ولا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب بئس الاسم الفسوق بعد الإيمان ومن لم يتب فأولئك هم الظالمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم ولا تجسسوا ولا يغتب بعضكم بعضا أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه واتقوا الله إن الله تواب رحيم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبا القاسم المصطفى محمد. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت، وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Brothers and sisters, our esteemed Sheikh Mahdi Rastani, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, a couple of announcements. Tomorrow is the 8th annual procession titled March for Justice. It will be held and we will assemble at the parking lot of Fortson High School at 9:30 a.m. Monday morning, we will have the Arabic maqtal, the Arabic masra' of the story of Ashura at 9 a.m. Monday 9 a.m. and then the English one will be held Monday at 8 p.m. inshallah. Also, if you'd like to help and contribute financially towards Ashura activities and future Islamic work, there are donation boxes on the entrances and exits, or please see one of the organizing brothers, inshallah. And now I'd like to introduce Sheikh Mahdi with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Before we begin, inshallah, let's take a moment to recite Surah Al-Fatiha, especially for these brothers and sisters who have, I'm sure many of us have heard the news of what's happening in Palestine again, amongst many other countries where our brothers and sisters are in difficulty, they are in pain, they're under oppression. Let's take a moment to recite Surah Al-Fatiha for those of them who have passed away, and pray for the patience of their families with a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا والشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين أما بعد فقد قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فلما وضعتها قالت رب إني وضعتها أنثى والله أعلم بما وضعت وليس الذكر كالأنثى وإني سميتها مريم وإني أعيذها بك وذريتها من الشيطان الرجيم صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات اللهم صل على محمد. For the love of our beloved Prophet and his beloved progeny, please recite a second loud salawat. Allahumma salli. For the hastening in the return of our beloved 12th Imam, a third final loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. The topic that we'll be discussing tonight, inshallah, is the topic revolving around the practice of al-istakhara. If you had told me maybe 5, 6, 10, 15 years ago, when I was studying in the Hawza, that there would come a day where we would have to discuss this topic on these special nights that we are going through, I might have laughed it off. I might have said, this is a topic that doesn't affect too many people, it's not too much of a serious issue. But when you look into our communities, you find that this topic of istikhara is becoming more and more prevalent. And more misunderstandings with regards to it are also becoming more prevalent. It is a practice that we go towards when we are in difficult situations, when we are in situations where we don't know what the best decision is to make. You find yourself in a position where you want to, for example, go ahead with a marriage. This is a place where you might find that many will start an istakhara or will perform an istakhara. You might find yourself in a situation where you want to choose a field you want to study in college. There are many who might do istakhara in these situations. Maybe you want to make an investment, maybe you want to start a business. There's a ton of different situations where you'll find different individuals will then try to incorporate the practice of istikhara and try to seek some guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm stuck, I don't know what to do, I don't know if I'm supposed to go left, I don't know if I'm supposed to go right, and hence this person might perform istikhara. And the other reason why it's important to discuss this topic is because we'll also discuss it from a more broad and general perspective of just understanding how we can bring more khair into our life. So if you're not in this position of starting a business or marriage or college or wanting to have children or not, this topic will still relate to you in its own ways because there are fundamental principles, Islamic principles, that we will discuss as we go through this topic of istikhara. How can I bring more khair into my life? What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expect from me to do for Him to make my life a blessed life? These are general principles that we will also discuss as well. We might find ourselves in situations where we don't know the outcome of a particular decision. Because we don't know the outcome of this particular decision, we turn to istikhara. This is a reality of life. Many times when you're younger, you might assume you know the outcomes of many things. When you're younger and you have less experience in life, you might think, for example, that you know this person that you're spending time with. You might think that you know your friend very well. But you speak to people who have more experience in life, you realize that no, there are many times there are people who have friends. These friends, God forbid, they might break your trust. They might not have the loyalty that you assumed. When you're younger, you reach certainty and yaqeen very quickly. Things look very black and white to you. So this person is the person I want to marry. His person is my soulmate. If I marry this person, it's going to be perfect. You ask someone with more experience in life, they'll tell you, listen, you can't be that sure. You can't be that certain about things, yes? The reality is there are many things in life that we are not sure about. We are not certain about. And in order to solve this problem, many of us might turn towards this practice of al-istikhara. But what is istikhara? What does it even mean? When am I supposed to do it? When am I not supposed to do it? What are the situations that Ahlul Bayt taught us to go towards istikhara? If a marriage proposal has been brought to me, is this a place to do istikhara? Is it not a place to do istikhara? There are many questions that can be brought up with regards to this practice. And therefore tonight, we want to take some time to delve into this topic by posing the following questions. Number one, what is the literal meaning of the word al-istikhara? Number two, can istikhara tell me what lies ahead of me in my future? If I do istikhara for a marriage and this istikhara turns out well, if I do istikhara to figure out which school I should attend and the istikhara turns out well, does this mean that if I go to this college, the outcome will be exactly what I predicted it was going to be? Or does istikhara not tell me that at all? Number three, why was the mother of Maryam, Hannah, why was she so sad when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let her know and when she saw that the child that she had brought into this world was not in fact a boy, it was a girl? And how did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala show her that so much khair lied in the fact that she had given birth to a girl versus a boy? Number four, when should I even do istikhara and when is my istikhara not even valid? Number five, what are the different forms of istikhara? Is there one way or are there a multitude of different ways to perform istikhara? Number six, can I do istikhara multiple times for the same issue if it doesn't turn out to be the result that I was looking for or not? And number seven, and finally, what is the best way to bring khair into my day-to-day life? With these, inshallah, we'll delve into these 7 questions with a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Let us begin from here. Istikhara literally means when you ask for something that is good. This is the literal meaning of istikhara. And as we'll mention, istikhara should be a very prevalent practice in our life. Not the istikhara that we commonly know of. That's a separate thing. This is the literal meaning of al-istikhara. Meaning I'm constantly asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for good things in my life. This is a form of dua. Is there any limitation on dua in Islam? Definitely not. In Islam, the more you ask, the better it is. But as a term, as an istilah, istikhara is not just used when you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for good things. It's used for those situations where you have two options in front of you and you want to choose between these two options. You can't figure out which one of them is better for you. This is what they call a form of al-istikhara. And the reality is, as we go through life, there are many decisions and many situations in our lives where we don't know the outcome of things, how they're going to turn out. You might choose a particular career path for yourself. You don't know if this career path is actually going to work out the way that you want it to work out. You might want to marry someone. You don't know, is this person going to be the right person for me? Are they not going to be the right person for me? You have doubts, you might have questions, and these are all valid, these are all natural. In fact, if someone goes through a marriage and has no doubts about the person that they're marrying, this shows they don't have much experience in life. Because the reality is you can never know who you've married until after you marry them, if what you're looking for is knowing them 110%. So we all find ourselves in these positions where we don't know which one we're supposed to choose. And the more serious the decision is, the more difficult. It's very difficult. That's why you'll find sometimes people in life, they're very undecisive. They can't even make decisions. Say, but what if I'm supposed to go this? But what if this one is the right? But what if that one is the right one? It's difficult. This idea of not knowing what my future holds is innate to the human being, and it bothers the human being. A lot of times, it's a source of anxiety for the human being. You sit there and say, if only Allah would have told me what the right decision is. If only Allah would have told me which way I'm supposed to go. I'll go through it. It's not a problem. I just want Him to tell me which way I'm supposed to go. This is a valid reason. But we as human beings, we are ignorant. We don't know what the future holds for us. So much so that in the verses of the Quran, even the Prophet of Allah, when he's asked of certain things, he says, listen, I don't know these things. When the Jewish people used to come to the Prophet and ask the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, when is the day of judgment going to show up? Give us a time. He said, إِنَّمَا عِلْمُهَا عِنْدَ رَبِّي. I don't know. This was part of the trick of the Jews of that time. They said, well, ask this Muhammad this question. If he gives us a time, we'll tell him that was the wrong answer. Musa said, no one knows the answer to this question. If he doesn't give us an answer to the question and he says, I don't know, we'll say, okay, what kind of prophet are you? You don't even know the answer to this question. This is part of their tricks. But nonetheless, the Prophet said, I don't know. And then the verses of the Quran continue. This is verse 188 from Surah Al-A'raf. He said, قُلْ لَا أَمْلِكُ لِنَفْسِي ذَرًّا وَلَا نَفْعًا. This is the part that relates to us. He said, listen, I don't hold any benefits for myself. I don't have this ultimate knowledge. It's in the hands of Allah. Sometimes things go my way, sometimes things don't go my way. وَلَوْ كُنْتُ أَعْلَمُ الْغَيْبَ لَاسْتَكْثَرْتُ مِنَ الْخَيْرِ. The Prophet says, if I had the full knowledge of the unseen, لَاسْتَكْثَرْتُ مِنَ الْخَيْرِ. I would have chosen the best options at all time, meaning the best options in terms of outcome. And this has opened a discussion among scholars that we're not going to get into, and that is this. What is the extent of the knowledge of the Prophet? Does he know everything at all times? Does he know some things when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to teach him from ilmul ghaib? Does he have some resource or book that he refers to that he can know ilmul ghaib whenever he decides? There is a multitude of different opinions amongst Islamic theologians as it relates to the knowledge of the Prophet and by extension the Ahlul Bayt and the Imam of our time, as to do they know everything at all times, or do they pick and choose, or is this in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Nonetheless, the verse of the Quran is saying, listen, if I had knowledge of everything, I would have chosen, of course, the best things for myself at all times. If I knew going on this trip is going to lead to this problem, of course, I choose not to go on this trip. This is how the human being is. This is how you and I are. If we had full knowledge, we would always choose the things that have the best outcomes for ourselves. We would never go through any difficulty in life if we had that knowledge. The problem is, you and I don't have that knowledge. We're stuck. A lot of times we're stuck. And so in order to solve this problem, then you say, you know what? I've heard of this concept known as istakhara. Let's do istikhara so that we can know if I go down this road, what will the outcome be? How will things turn out if I go down this road? See, how do you know? I did istikhara, the istikhara came well. That means I'm supposed to go down this road. And many think that when they do istikhara, this istikhara is a window into the future for them. They assume that if they do istikhara, they can tell what's going to happen in the future. And that is not what istikhara is at all. So what is istikhara? Istikhara is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to do. Yes. Which road He wants me to take. But He's not guaranteeing that the road that He tells you to take, is it going to be a smooth ride or is it going to be an extremely bumpy ride? He doesn't tell you that. No one can tell you that. It's a difficulty of life. He's not going to tell you if you go down this road, will the outcome be the thing you wanted? Or it's going to be the exact opposite of it. Sorry, I can't tell you that. So what can you tell me? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you which one is better for you at the end of the day. But better for you, what does that mean? Does it mean it's going to be easy? No, not necessarily. This is difficult. There were times in history, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would order the Muslims to do something. You have to do this. And then the outcome, from a worldly perspective, was not the best outcome at all. There are times where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose something for someone, it would turn out better than what they thought. It can go either way. The Prophet, he turned to Zainab, said, Zainab, you have to marry Zayd. Zayd was this young man that had come into the house of the Prophet from a very young age. The Prophet had freed him at a young age, but he himself decided to stay with the Prophet. When the father of Zayd came to visit him, and he said, Zayd, you can come back with us. He said, no, I want to stay with Muhammad. This is how much he had loved being with the Prophet, in the household of the Prophet. Zayd, Ali ibn Abi Talib, these were individuals that the Prophet raised in his own household. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent this command to the Prophet that Zainab needs to marry Zayd. It's a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How rare is a command like this? That a marriage is ordained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it ever happens, this was one of the rare incidents where this happened. The command came. They came and told Zainab, they said, there's a marriage proposal. And because the person coming was on behalf of the Prophet, she initially said yes, because her assumption was that the Prophet himself is making this proposal. She said yes. Then she found out, no, it's not for the Prophet. It's for Zayd, the one who the Prophet has raised. Then she said, no, I don't, no. And in this particular rare, of course, this rarely happens. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had ordained for it to happen. He had commanded for it to happen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verses of the Quran. He said, when we decide something, وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ وَلَا مُؤْمِنَةٍ إِذَا قَضَى اللَّهُ, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides something, مَا كَانَ لَهُمُ الْخِيَرَةِ, they don't get to choose anymore. This is one, we have ordained, we have commanded it. Okay, so Zainab finally went through with this. Now, this thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told her, you have to go through with it, and it has to happen, and it's ordained and commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes? Forget about istikhara. Verses of Quran were revealed to tell her she has to do this. So there's no doubt this is the road Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants her to go down. Did it go so smoothly? No. Before you know it, Zainab and Zayd were having issues. And the Quran says the Prophet used to tell Zayd, you have to be able to control your marriage. You have to be able to be nice with your wife. Yes, ittaqillah. Be fearful of God. Zayd didn't do this at the end of the day. At the end of the day, what happened? They divorced from one another. Say, but I thought Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted this. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted this. But when He wants something for you or for me, it doesn't mean that road is not going to be a bumpy road. It's a difficult pill to swallow, but this is the reality of how things are. Sometimes it's like this. Sometimes, no, the thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides for you is going to be much, much better than even you can imagine. It can go either ways. When did this happen where a person had something in mind? Recite a salawat, please. One more salawat, please. One more salawat, please. Where did this happen where a person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them that you have to go down this road? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose an option for them. And they thought, you know what? This is not what I want. In other words, they thought their khair is not in this. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed them, listen, you have no idea what your khair lies in. You have no idea where your khair is. Who was this? This was the mother of Maryam. The story of the mother of Maryam is a very interesting one. Her name was Hannah. Hannah, when she wanted to give birth, of course, she was a person of faith. So before she even gave birth to this child, her thought process was that I'm going to devote my child to the temple. I'm not going to tell this child to work for us. I'm not going to tell this child to come and, take care of our affairs. When you had a child back in the day, this is what the child was helping out with, yes, with the affairs in the household. She said, I am going to devote my child to the temple. He's going to go worship. He's not going to do anything else. And of course, in order for this child to be one, to be able to serve in the temple, he has to be what? He has to be a male. He has to be a boy. These are the rules of the Jewish temple. So she goes into this birth with this idea. And before the birth even starts to initiate, what does she say? She says, Ya Allah, I have devoted my son to you. I hope that you accept this from me. It's a very religious moment. It's a very spiritual moment. Yes? She's devoting her son to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so what happened then? The mother of Maryam went into the birth, and then all of a sudden, they see, no, this is a girl. And what did the mother of Maryam say in those moments? فَلَمَّا وَضَعَتْهَا, when she gave birth, قالت, she said, رَبِّ إِنِّي وَضَعْتُهَا أُنْثَى. I was hoping this would be a boy. But she turned out to be what? She turned out to be a girl. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says very beautiful lines. She was thinking like this, Wallahu a'lamu bima wada'at. But we knew better what she had given birth to. We know what the outcome of this child is going to be. You have your personal preference, great. You want to devote your child to the temple, you want your child to do this, to do that, great. It's wonderful, you have these great intentions. We know better how to guide you. We will do something, your child forget about just serving in the temple. She will do much bigger things than that. This is the road Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose for the mother of Maryam. And then the Quran says, وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. The Quran says, the boy will never be like the girl. We had something better in mind for you. So what happened? This same daughter that the mother of Maryam, when she was born, was a bit sad. Now, of course, I have to mention this point here before I move on. This preference that the mother of Maryam has, this is very different from the preferences, nowadays we have. Sometimes in our cultures, it's still remaining there, yes? Oh, I want a boy, I want this, I want that. Mother of Maryam wanted a boy, not because of her personal preference, because she wants to prefer male over female. No, it wasn't because of this. It's because she had a religious, devotion in mind. That's why she was looking for this boy. And beyond that, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave her the girl, what happened? Did she sit there and say, oh, this isn't what I wanted? No, then she took Maryam. She raised Maryam to be who Maryam was. You and I can have our preferences. Someone says, I want a boy. Someone says, I want a girl. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses you, end of discussion, yes? Then you take the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this little one that you're holding in your hands right now is the same one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنُ الْخَالِقِينَ for. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses for you, before you might have your preferences, no problem, we all have our preferences, it's no problem. But when He chooses for you, it's done. Nonetheless, the Quran says this same Maryam that the mother of Maryam thought, you know what, she's never even going to make it into the temple. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it such that Maryam was so much sought after. There was a fight over who's going to take over her custody in the temple. And the Quran says, وَمَا كُنْتَ لَدَيْهِمْ Ya Rasulullah, you weren't there إِذْ يُلْقُونَ أَقْلَامَهُمْ أَيُّهُمْ يَكْفُلُ مَرْيَمْ. You weren't there when those moments came where Maryam was in so much demand that they were fighting over who's going to have her custody in the temple. This is what we did. And this mother of Maryam had in mind, if I have a boy, I want this boy to be devoted to the temple, to worship in the temple. Not only did her child, not only did her daughter end up serving in the temple, worshiping in the temple, number one. Not only did she break some of the false norms of society at that time that did not allow for the women to enter. Number two, she gave birth to someone who became a savior for that ummah. You don't know where your khair lies. Maryam had the best of intentions and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, scratch that, I have something better in mind. Does it always turn out as great as what happened with the daughter of the mother of Maryam? No, not necessarily. You know, sometimes you see these inspirational quotes people put out. Yeah, your best days are always to come. Tomorrow will always be better than yesterday. Maybe, maybe not, we don't know. But that doesn't mean you lose hope. You rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes? Many times this verse of Surah Al-Duha is translated to say, وَلَلْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى. They translated, they said that means tomorrow is going to be better than today. Your best days are to come. No. وَلَلْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى means the akhirah is better than the dunya. Not that tomorrow is definitely going to be a better day. We don't know. Might be better. Might be 10 times better. Or maybe not. It's all in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the marriage of Zainab and Zayd, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained it and it turned out the way that it turned out. In the daughter of the mother of Maryam, the daughter of Hannah, he was the one who ordained it and it turned out better than any of them could imagine. That is exactly the point. We don't know. And when we perform istikhara, istikhara cannot tell us what the future holds for us. Istikhara can simply tell us, am I supposed to go left or am I supposed to go right? Is left a bumpy road or is it a smooth road? This is not something that istikhara tells us. Recite salawat, please. Say, okay, fine. I'm in a position now, I don't even want to know the future. I just want to know which way I'm supposed to go. So can I do this istikhara? And what are the different ways of doing istikhara? Great. The first and most solid and most encouraged form of istikhara is that form of istikhara that is a form of dua. You constantly raise your hand and say, oh Allah, I'm stuck, I don't know. In fact, it's not even limited to situations when you're stuck. Because even when situations where you're sure of the outcome, technically you're not sure of the outcome. You got in your car today, yes? I got in my car. Was I sure nothing terrible was going to happen on my way? No. The Ahl Bayt teach us even when you're sure, raise your hand and say, oh Allah, put khair in it. Even when you're sure, what does that tell you about the knowledge of the human being? It means we know nothing. It means we know nothing about anything. We can't tell what the outcomes are. The first form of istikhara is I raise my hands, I say, oh Allah, put khair in whatever I do. Even if I know which way I want to go, I still ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the number of narrations that we have on this form of istikhara is many. There are many, because it's a form of dua. And who did this dua? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him in a way that you and I could not have even expected. Musa alayhi salam did this dua. When Musa had left the people of Fir'aun, he was on his way out. In many ways, he was homeless. He had no shelter, he had nowhere to go. If he goes back to Egypt, they'll tell him, they'll kill him because he had killed one from the other side. So he's homeless. He has no shelter. He has nowhere to go. What did he do? He came across the well, the famous story. When he came across the well, all he knew he had to do was, I should help these two women. I don't know where I'm going to sleep tonight. I don't know where I'm going to get food. I don't know anything. I just know I'm supposed to help them. If they need help, I'm going to help them. And he did that. And the Quran says, فَسَقَى لَهُمَا. Musa, he helped them with the water. So what did he do then? ثُمَّ تَوَلَّى إِلَى الظِّلِّ. Then he went to sit in the shade. And he raised his hand and said, قَالَ رَبِّي إِنِّي لِمَا أَنزَلْتَ إِلَيَّ مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَقِيرٍ. I need your khair. Put khair in what I do. From this dua, Musa went from homeless, no shelter, to what? a person who has shelter, he has a family, he has a job, then he's going to go be chosen as a prophet because he said, oh Allah, put khair in it. This is the first form of istikhara that, by the way, many of us have disregarded and ignored altogether. No, constantly raise your hands. Oh Allah, put khair in it. But I'm sure, I'm not even in doubt. I know I'm supposed to get in my car to go to my job. Still you say, oh Allah, put khair in it. This is not for situations where you don't know. Even when you know this form of istikhara, you're supposed to do it. This is the first form of istikhara. Say, okay, no, it's not that type of a situation. I want to figure out which path I'm supposed to take. Can I do istikhara in these positions? Okay, the first condition when I want to do istikhara, I want to figure out which way I'm supposed to go, is, well, listen, first of all, you have to see if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already told you which of these paths is wrong. Can't do istikhara when one of the options is haram. When one of the options is haram, that's kind of a little bit of a sign that God maybe doesn't want you to do this. So I don't know if we should have a mixed wedding or not. Let's ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes it's not even haram on one side. Sometimes one option, it goes against the general values in Islam. I don't know if I should take this job, but I know that if I take this job, I'm not going to be able to spend much time with my family, with my children, with this, with that. Sometimes it's okay. Sometimes no. I want to raise these kids. I want to help. I want to be in the family. Mother, father, they both have their roles. So I'm going to take this job, but this job, if I take it, my teenager will see me once a month. This is against the general direction that Islam wants you to move in. It's not haram per se, but this is not what Islam wants for your family. Your family wants the mother, the father, they both have roles. They have to be present in the household. Take a look at the statistics. Single parent household, what the outcome of it is like. Yes? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless our single parents who try their best. But it's difficult, it's not easy. So this is not haram, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala obviously doesn't want you to go down this road. So this is number one. I can't be choosing for those options where it's not allowed. And in order to know what's not allowed and what is allowed, I have to learn these rulings. I can't just guess. This is number one. Number two, you have to sit down and think about it. You have to put some thought into it. That's number two. Moving on, you say, I thought about it, I'm still not sure. Number three, you have to consult others on this. You have to do your due diligence. Istikhara is the last option. Last option. You consult others. How many times did the Prophet consult people? Left and right, the Prophet was consulting. And there's a discussion in Islamic theology when the Prophet was consulting others. Did he know which option to choose and he was still consulting people? Or no, in that moment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had left it to him to decide which one. There's a long discussion on this. Why is there such a discussion? Because he was consulting people so much. Battle of Badr, let's consult. Battle of Uhud, let's consult. This battle, let's consult. Battle of Ahzab, Battle of Khandaq, the trench, let's discuss. They sat down, they discussed. Salman gave this idea. It was such a great idea. The mushrikeen of Quraysh, when they were heading out, not just the mushrikeen of Quraysh, all of the parties who had come, because it was Ahzab, it was the parties, the whole Arabian Peninsula. When they were leaving, some of them shouted out to the army of the Muslims and the camp of the Muslims. They said, you got lucky that you had this trench. Otherwise, we had come to put an end to you. Did the Prophet get lucky or did he consult? He consulted. He did mashwara. How many narrations do we have on consulting people? More than you can count. You say, well, Sheikh, I did all of this. I'm still in doubt. This number four, this fourth condition, is probably the condition that most people get wrong when they move towards istikhara. This is the main point of tonight's talk. Say, well, it's not haram on one side. I thought about it. I consulted people. I still don't know what decision I'm supposed to make. Are you leaning towards one side? It's like 50, 60, 70, 80% towards one side based on your understanding, based on the facts. Or are you completely 50-50 and lost? Because the narrations say istikhara is for those situations where you're completely lost. Like you have no idea. Not when everything looks good and then deep down you still have a little bit of doubt. You know how many times people have reached out? This person's just not 100% sure. And they think in order to become 100% sure, well, let me just tag on an istikhara. For the last 10-15%, we'll tag on an istikhara, and then this will be 100% and we'll move forward with it. No, this is not where istikhara is done. Sometimes you'll hear marriage is falling apart because of this. So if you're a family, will say, listen, you want to talk to our daughter? First, we'll do istikhara if you can even talk to our daughter. Why? Does he have some red flags? If he has some red flags, sure. No red flags. Great young man, but we're not sure. So in order to be sure, we have to do istikhara. Did Ahl Bayt tell you to do istikhara in these positions? Or did they say when you have hayra? Hayra means what? 80% leading towards? No, hayra means I'm completely lost. I don't even know what to do. There are some things, they're creating serious doubt in my mind. I don't know what to do. Someone says, well, Sheikh, I've thought about it, I've consulted. I'm not 100% sure. I still have 10-15% of doubt in my mind. If you still have 10-15% of doubt in your mind and you're not 100% sure, you don't need an istikhara. You know what you need now? You need something else. It's called tawakkul. That 10-15% that's left, tawakkul is supposed to take care of that. You're supposed to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is my best guess, but I'm not 100% sure. By the way, do you think you're 100% sure about all the other things you don't do istikhara about? What do you do with all of those other things you're not sure about? Are you sure you're supposed to take this job even though it looks amazing? No, even in those situations you're not sure. You're never 100%. What do you do in those situations? You do tawakkul. You say, oh Allah, this is the best that my mind guides me and I've consulted others. The last 10-15%, oh Allah, I rely on you so that hopefully the outcomes that I want, you will deliver them. This is not a place for istikhara. I say, I have this 10-15%. Let me just get a stamp of approval from God. The 80-70% that's built into your mind already is God's stamp of approval. He's telling you to go down this road. So Sheikh, if I go down this road, it's going to turn out the way I want it to? No, I don't know. It might turn out that way. It might turn out better. It might turn out worse. We don't know. Istikhara is only for situations where I am completely lost. Someone comes ahead with a marriage proposal. There are no serious red flags. Oh, but Sheikh, I don't know this person 100%. Welcome to the real world. This is how it is. This is what you need tawakkul for. Business opportunity shows up, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, that's how life is. If you don't see red flags, then you move forward with it. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. And what you have thought about and what has come to your mind in and of itself, look at it as a stamp of approval from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why hadith says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends two prophets to the human being. So one is the external prophet. These prophets we know of. One is the internal prophet. Who's the internal prophet? The internal prophet is your aql. It's your intellect. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you to move in this direction. And if you're not 100% sure, no problem. You do tawakkul and you move on with it. Recite a salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Hence, if I do istikhara now, where I wasn't 50-50, I didn't have hayra, I wasn't lost. I felt like I'm supposed to do this, but I just did it for the 10-15%. Is this a valid istikhara? Doesn't seem to be. And you will find many scholars like Ayatollah Sistani, Ayatollah Khamenei, Ayatollah Makarim, many of them will tell you, istikhara only for those situations where you are completely 50-50. You have hayra, you're completely lost. Now 50-50 is a figure. You might say, I'm 51-49. You get the point. You're completely lost in this situation. Oh, well, this marriage is going, well, we did istikhara, it didn't turn out well. So now we have to ruin the future of this young man and this young woman because the istikhara didn't turn out well. Were you guys lost? Did you have hayra? No, just as an extra stamp of approval. We wanted to make sure. Sorry, there is no making sure. You have to go ahead with it if it looks like a good option. The last 10, 15%, you won't know. In fact, you won't know until 3-4 years into the marriage. You might not even know. That's how it works. Okay, I'm completely lost. How do I then do this form of istikhara? There are many ways to perform istikhara. Maybe someone opens the Quran. That's a little bit more of a complex way of doing istikhara. Looks at the verse that shows up. Maybe someone picks up a tasbih and does istikhara. Sometimes istikhara is done with different pieces of paper. But the one form of istikhara that I want to draw your attention to, that is very much disregarded amongst our communities, but in fact, in terms of the narrations that are there to support it, has stronger narrations than any of these other forms of istikhara, is known as istikharatul qalb. What is this? This is the istikhara where you pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you ask for His guidance, maybe you do 2 rakat salat, and then you wait to see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places in your heart. This istikhara has more solid narrations than all of the previous forms of istikhara I talked about. Setting aside, of course, the form of istikhara, that's a form of dua. That one is, of course, a form of dua and so on and so forth. But these other forms of istikhara, this one has the strongest one. And we have multiple narrations about it. And a number of them are sahih narrations. In which this person comes to the imam and says, Ya ibn Rasulullah, I'm stuck. I don't know which decision to make. He says, you know what? When you pray, then go to sajda. Worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then when you come up, see which one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places in your heart. See which one you seem to be leaning towards. And you go ahead with that. And it's interesting, we have this common practice of giving istikhara to someone else to do. Yes? In these narrations, you don't find the companion of the Prophet coming to the Prophet and say, Ya ibn Rasulullah, do this istikhara for me. The Imam tells him what to do. In fact, istikhara originally is built in this way. You're supposed to do it. Now, some scholars allow for someone else to do it on your behalf. But what is definitely accepted is for you to do it on your own behalf. Al-istikharatul qalb. You see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places into your heart. When this istikhara turns out, and the result of it from it turns out, can I then go against this istikhara? I'm choosing between 2 fields, and A turned out to be bad because of the istikhara. But you know what? Now I want to choose A. It's like I like to do it. I don't know. I have this newfound passion for it. I want to do A. Can I go against the istikhara? And many of our scholars, including Ayatollah Sistani, say, firstly, it is not haram. You can go against the istikhara if that's what you choose, number one. And number two, if you're worried that there was something that was going to happen, you can give sadaqah. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes that difficulty if you were to go down the road that is going against the istikhara. But nonetheless, it is not haram to go against this istikhara that you have made. Can I make multiple istikharas for the same thing? Well, the answer is no, because the first istikhara you made, it's supposed to remove that moment where you were lost. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already told you what to do. So if He told you what to do, the second istikhara has no grounds anymore. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already told you what you are supposed to do. Yes, I can keep opening up the Quran until this business opportunity starts to turn out to be positive at one point or another. But this istikhara is not a valid istikhara. Yes? Now all of this istikhara that we said, I want to bring khair into my life. And we say, Ya Allah, how can I do istikhara? How can I figure out which one is the best option? Brothers and sisters, if you truly want to bring khair into your life, if you truly want to bring barakah into your life, if you want to make it such that your life is blessed, istikhara has its place for its particular situations. But the situations you and I deal with every single day, those are situations you can bring khair into your life. How? What's the best thing to do for me to bring blessings into my life, for me to bring khair into my life? It's quite simple. You have to refrain from sinning. There is no life that is full of sin and then you do a couple of istikharas and then you hit the jackpot. Jackpot's haram, if anyone is wondering. It's a term of speech, of course. There is no life where you're actively disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then on the night of the wedding we kiss the Quran and mashallah, this life is a blessed life now. Why is it a blessed life? Because they're obedient to Allah? No. Because look, they kissed the Quran. This life is not a blessed life if I'm continuously disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then I throw a ziyarah in the middle of it. Ziyarah is powerful. Ziyarah can remove sins, yes? But if I continuously afterwards disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how is this life a blessed life? We have to be careful not to trick ourselves, brothers and sisters. There's no shortcuts. There's no way out of this. You want to bring blessings into your life, you want to bring khair into your life, Bismillah, it's in front of you. When you come across that haram, say no to it, and khair and blessings will come into your life. Sometimes khair will come into your life, you won't even realize it. 20 years later, you'll realize this thing you didn't even work for, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it to you. This is the way to bring khair into our lives. So the verses of the Quran say, وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرَى. This verse is for you and I, and with this I will wrap up. وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرَى آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا. If the people had believed in us, number one, accepted our message, which alhamdulillah you've already done. If you're sitting here, you've already accepted this message. Okay, great. آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا. And they were fearful of our presence. They had refrained from sin. لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. We would have opened the windows and the doors of blessings upon them from the heavens and the earth. We would have showered them with blessings. But no, this person, he decides to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of a sudden, when it comes time for istakhara, he thinks he can crack the code just with one istakhara. You and I have bigger problems. You and I have bigger issues. Yes, istakhara has its own place. You want to bring khair into your life. You want to bring so many blessings into your life, as the Quran says, مِنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Like from every corner, Bismillah. Refrain from sin. Try to remove sin from your life, and the doors of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open upon us. This is the promise of the Quran. It's a difficult promise to believe in, to embrace, but it's the promise of the Quran. I can act like my life is a blessed life because I do some one or two basic practices here or there. But as long as the mainstream part of my life is a life of sin, well then these other blessed things are going to get lost in the midst of all of the sin. You can put on your ring and you can touch the Kaaba and you can go for ziyarah and you can do istikhara and you can kiss the Quran. But that night when you kiss the Quran and then the gathering is a gathering of sin, what blessing, what blessedness, what barakah. The Quran said, Amanu wa taqaw. Stay away from sin and the doors of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will then open onto you. With that, inshallah, we'll bring tonight's talk to an end. Let's take a moment to recite Surah Al-Fatiha for all of your marhumin and marhumat with a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad. Bismillah.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Before we start with the poem and the majlis, I just like to have another reminder for the march tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. at Fortin Parking Lot, inshallah. Tonight's majlis will be about al-Qasim, the son of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Have you ever seen a lion so big? A lion that seems so small in stature but colossal in bravery. That is the son of Imam al-Hasan. Al-Qasim was only a teenager, but he understood the right of his Imam. His belief system was second to none. When you see death for Hussein as honey, know that you have transcended adolescence and maturity. Despite the situation, Qasim was aware he was alive. He embodied the true meaning of a human being, all at the age of 13. Al-Qasim is a sign that youth is not synonymous with immaturity and impurity. Our boys should be brought up like Qasim. Our boys should learn the principles of faith and build a strong foundation. Our boys should look to al-Qasim as a beacon. Our expectations should not be less than the heavens. Our expectations should not be less than serving this great religion. If our boys do not look to Qasim, who will the Imam look to? The Imam is looking at them to shake the world. The Imam is looking at them to shape the world. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And now I'd like to introduce Brother Hassan Bazoon with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
لتعجيل ظهور مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان رحم الله من أعاد الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. With our hearts, minds and souls, on the night of al-Qasim, the son of al-Imam al-Hasan al-Mushtaba, we go to Karbala. Sallallahu alayka ya Sayyidi wa ya Mawlaya ya Rasul Allah. Sallallahu alayka ya Sayyidi يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة صلى الله عليك وعلى ريحانة المجتبى القاسم ابن الحسن الشهيد بكربلاء. May the peace of Allah fall upon the benevolent heart of Imam Hussein. May the peace of Allah be upon you, Aba Abdullah, as you are His vast mercy and the salvation for this ummah. May the peace of Allah be upon you and upon your brother Al-Hasan Al-Mushtaba and upon your nephew Al-Qasim ibn Al-Hasan
A stranger you were in Karbala. Together we call to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. A stranger you were in Karbala. Ya thirsty you were in Karbala. Ya martyred you fell in Karbala. Ya Qasim, 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 Qasim. We tell the story of a young man, the son of al-Hassan, is in his uncle's camp, not afraid from death in a dreary land, not afraid from death in a dreary land. Couldn't bear to see that day in Karbala. It was difficult for Qasim. Couldn't bear to see his uncle lonely, determined to defend Hussein bravely. He said to him, "Dear uncle, today I'm not a boy. Rather, what are you, Ya Qasim? I'm not a boy. I'm a warrior ready to slay. I fear no death. I fear no man. I only fear that in this place alone you're killed in gruesome ways." Then he shows him his sword. He says, "Look, this sword that I hold with might to my father belonged, saved for this fight. I won't retreat from your side today. I'm not a boy. I'm a warrior ready to slay." Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. One important thing that we must highlight is that a part of Karbala started with al-Imam al-Hasan al-Mushtaba alayhi salam. When al-Imam al-Hasan al-Mushtaba was on his deathbed, dealing with the pain of being poisoned, Imam Hussein alayhi salam was saddened next to him. And al-Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam tells him, "Don't be sad for me, Aba Abdullah." He says, "لا يومك يومك أبا عبد الله يزدلف إليك 30,000 يدعون أنهم من أمة جدك فيقتلونك ويقتلون بنيك وذريتك ويسبون حريمك." Says Aba Abdullah, there is no day like your day. Imam al-Hasan is telling of what's coming in Karbala. There is no day like your day where an army of thousands will surround you and they will kill you and your companions and your children and your family members, and then they will take the woman as captives. He says, Ya Aba Abdullah, anta shahidu hadhihi al-ummah. You are the great martyr of this nation. Yes, Al-Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam knew of the tragedy in Karbala. And so he had prepared for his role in Karbala as well. When Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam went to Kufa and was besieged in Karbala, there were 5 sons of Al-Imam al-Hasan al-Mushtaba with him. One of them was called Abdullah al-Akbar, also known as Abi Bakr ibn al-Hasan. He was martyred in Karbala. Then there was Abdullah al-Asghar, who was a younger son of Al-Imam al-Hasan, and he was butchered in Karbala. And there was a boy named Amru ibn al-Hasan. Amru was very young and he was spared in Karbala. And then there is Al-Hasan al-Muthanna, or Al-Hasan ibn al-Hasan, who was heavily wounded, but eventually was found alive in Karbala. And then there is al-Qasim, al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan. And our narrations tell us that our Qasim was closer to the age of 15, 16 in Karbala. On the night of the 10th, before the 10th day, when Imam Hussein alayhi salam had gathered his companions and he gave them the opportunity to leave, and they refused to leave, and he told them of what will come on the next day, and they stayed with him. Al-Qasim was hearing the words of his uncle Hussein. So Al-Qasim comes to the Imam alayhi salam and he says, Uncle Hussein, he has a concern. He says, am I going to be amongst those who are killed in your defense tomorrow? Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he looks at Al-Qasim. This is his nephew. He's young. He looks at him and he says, Ya Qasim, كيف ترى الموت? How do you see death? How does Al-Qasim respond? He says, معك يا عمّا أحلى من العسل. Death with you, Uncle Hussein, is sweeter than honey. On the 10th of Muharram, after the companions had been killed, and after Ali al-Akbar was killed, Al-Qasim approached his uncle Hussein, asking him for permission to fight and be martyred in his defense in Karbala. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he looks at Al-Qasim, he says, Ya ibn akhi, anta al-wadi'a. He says, Ya Qasim, you are entrusted to me by my brother Al-Hasan alayhi salam, and he refuses to let Al-Qasim fight. Al-Qasim kept on pleading with Imam Hussein to let him fight. Then Imam Hussein would refuse, and then he looked at him and he says, Ya waladi atamshi birijlika ila al-maut. Son Qasim, you're asking me to let you walk to your death. Then he refused. Then Al-Qasim says, وَكَيْفَ يَا عَامْ وَأَنْتَ بَقِيتَ بَيْنَ الْأَعْدَاءِ وَحِيدًا فَرِيدًا لَمْ تَجِدْ نَاصِرًا وَلَا مُعِينًا. He says, Uncle Hussein, how can I not ask you? How when you are by yourself and you have no supporters and no helpers? Ya Hussein, may my soul and my body be sacrificed for you. Then Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he refused. He would not give al-Qasim permission. Al-Qasim was entrusted to him from his brother Al-Imam al-Hasan al-Mushtaba alayhi salam, and he did not want to lose this trust. So the narrations say Al-Qasim cried, and he walked back to the tent, and he saw his mother, and he sat in the tent crying. Then his mother, one narration tells us that his mother reveals a letter that was penned by Al-Imam al-Hasan al-Mushtaba alayhi salam, and it was saved for that day for Al-Qasim in Karbala. What's written in that letter? وَلَدِي يَا قَاسِمْ أوصيك أنك إذا رأيت عمك في كربلاء وقد أحاطت به الأعداء فلا تترك البراز والجهاد ولا تبخل عليه بروحك. Al-Imam al-Hasan had written these words for his son Qasim, so his son can convince Imam Hussein alayhi salam. It says, son Qasim, if you find your uncle alone in Karbala, surrounded by these enemies, do not leave his side and sacrifice yourself for him, insisting upon him to allow you to fight and duel. Only then will you reach everlasting happiness. When Al-Qasim saw this, he returned to his uncle Hussein alayhi salam, and he shows Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam the letter. Al-Imam becomes heavy-hearted. Then he calls for the amama of Al-Imam al-Hasan, the turban of Al-Imam al-Hasan, and he wraps it around the helmet of Al-Qasim, and he embraces him. Then he tells him, son Qasim, go bid farewell to your mother. Go bid farewell to your mother Ramla before you enter the battlefield. Yes, Al-Qasim rushed to his mother Ramla. Now he's happy. He was given permission. He embraces her. He tells her, pray for me. Don't forget me. Be pleased with me. I'm going to sacrifice myself for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. How would a mother feel in that situation? She might have been sad. She might have been broken. She might have urged him to stay. But no, the women in Karbala were resilient and brave, and they sacrificed just like the warriors. As if Ramla would say to her son Qasim, as if this discussion happened between Ramla and Qasim. To his mother he said, I'm leaving now. With Hussein I will fight till I die. She cried and she hugged and she said with tears, proud I am, Ya Qasim, proud I am, fight without fear. Don't leave your uncle until you bleed. Your father's will, make sure you heed. But there's more. She wants to tell him one more thing. Dear son Qasim, Habibi ya Qasim, one final thought in paradise, make sure to recall your mother Ramla. Where should he recall Ramla in paradise? Your mother Ramla in Fatima's home. Tell her with Hussein, my mother Ramla insisted I fall. With the permission of his uncle, al-Qasim entered the battlefield like a lion, saying, "In tunkiruni fa'ana najlu al-Hasan." In tunkiruni fa'ana najlu al-Hasan. صبت النبي المصطفى والمؤتميان. If you do not know me, he's chanting his verses against the enemies. If you do not know me, I am the son of al-Hasan, grandson of the chosen and trusted prophet, يعني ابن رسول الله. This is Hussein, like a ransomed captive among cursed people. May they never see the sky's mercy. Yes, Qasim entered the battlefield and began to fight valiantly. He was young in his age but grand in his faith, and drew his strength from his imam and his devotion to protecting his uncle Hussein. Al-Qasim fought and killed worthy opponents. He fought like a son of Ali ibn Abi Talib would fight in Karbala. There's a narration, one of the enemies named Hamid ibn Muslim, he says, I was on the side of Umar ibn Sa'ad when a young man came forward. His face would shine like the moon as he was wielding his sword. The strap of his shoe was torn, and he says, I will never forget that it was his left shoe. Yes, al-Qasim was fighting. As he was fighting, his shoe strap became undone. So he moved back a little bit to rest and to fix his shoes so the sand does not burn his feet. As he was fixing it, a soldier from Yazid's army named Umar ibn Nafil al-Asdi, he says, by Allah, by God, I will strike him and I will break his mother's heart now. And he rushed towards al-Qasim as he was kneeling down. He rushed him on the horse and he swung his sword and he struck al-Qasim on the head. Al-Qasim fell to the ground calling out, Adrikni ya Ammi, Ya Hussein, Uncle Hussein, come to me. The narration says that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam rushed towards his nephew, breaking through the enemy lines like an angered lion until he reached al-Qasim. When the dust settles, the Imam was standing over al-Qasim's body. One narration says that when Imam Hussein arrived at the scene of al-Qasim, the Arabic phrase is he found him yafhasu birijleh. Yani from the pain of the strike, al-Qasim was twitching and kicking his feet in the sand. Imam Hussein alayhi salam embraced him and he says, Azza wallahi ala ammika an tad'uwahu fala yujibuk أو يجيبك فلا يعينك أو يعينك فلا يغني عنك بعدا لقوم قتلوك. He says, by Allah, Son Qasim, it's hard upon your uncle that you call him while he cannot answer you. Or that he answers you but he cannot help you. Or that he helps you but his help does not suffice you. Away with the people who have killed you. Their adversary on the day of judgment will be your grandfather and your father. As if Imam Hussein is saying to Qasim, Ya Qasim, Habibi, Habibi, to your side I came, heartbroken as you called my name. Ya Habibi, Habibi, it's hard upon me to see you bleed in the sand before me. Young you were and I watched you grow, but today my heart bleeds in woe. As in Karbala you are slain. The Imam, as he consoled his beloved nephew, Al-Qasim's soul left his body and was elevated to the sky. رحم الله من نادى وقاسما وشهيداه وقاسما. The Imam alayhi salam, he carried, ساعد الله قلبك أبا عبد الله, he carried the body of Al-Qasim back to camp. And the narrators say that when the Imam picked up Al-Qasim, he chose to put his chest on his chest. And he brought the body back. As he placed Al-Qasim, he placed him right next to his son Ali al-Akbar. And for a moment he sat between them both. On one side is his son Ali, and on the other side is his beloved nephew, just like his son Al-Qasim. جاب الخيمة عياله وحط بصف علي الأكبر وقعد ما بينهم يبكي وعليهم قام يتحسى يا نوبة يعاين ولاده ونار الحزن بيه تسعار ونوبة يعاين الجاسم يقله والدمع ساجم يا عمي على التراب نايم. Ramla, the mother of Al-Qasim, she comes to see her son. She looks at him slain in the sand. She begins to weep and calls his name. Qasim, Qasim, Qasim. يما يما فتح عيونك لما يما يما أنا أريد لصدري أضمك. I'm a mother in Karbala mournful. My son Qasim slain before me a day woeful. But this pain here I willingly bear, for this is Hussein every soul will spare. Qasim with Ramla, Qasim, 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 Qasim. The death of Qasim broke the heart of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and it weighed heavy on his soul, just like the death of his son Ali al-Akbar. But perhaps in that moment, Imam Hussein alayhi salam was thinking of something else and searching for words to tell his brother al-Imam al-Hassan why his son Qasim was killed in Karbala. But what would have al-Imam al-Hassan said to Imam Hussein? My brother Hussein, oh lonely Hussein, don't you grieve, don't you wail. Know that had I been there, I would defend you even if my hands are bare. And for your sake, my life I'd spare. From my flame was Qasim's flare. He's made me proud, don't despair. My brother Hussein, oh lonely Hussein. أطفالهم بلغوا الحلم بقربهم شوقا إلى الهيجاء إلى الحسناء. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك يا الله يا الله يا الله. Ya Allah, we ask you and call upon you by your greatest name, the mightiest, the most honorable, to send your blessings and praise upon Muhammad and the family of Muhammad, and that you accept of us our worship. We ask that you send your mercy upon the dead of the believing men and women. We ask you by Hussein, the martyr, and his mother and father, whoever was in this gathering of ours, and that has a need, that you fulfill it for them. In particular, those who have requested that we do dua on their behalf and for their needs. We pray that you relieve the suffering of all those oppressed, and that you hasten the return of our beloved 12th Imam al-Imam al-Mahdi Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajah, and that you write our names amongst his supporters and aiders. We ask you that you protect our scholars and maraja, and protect the Muslim Ummah against evildoers conspiring against them. May the peace of Allah be upon the noble Hussein, the children of Hussein, and the family of Hussein. May the peace of Allah be upon the noble Abbas and the honorable Zainab. Assalamu ala al-Husayn jami'an. Assalamu ala al-Husayn وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام على أبي الفضل العباس أخي الحسين. السلام على الحوراء زينب أخت الحسين ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى